everybody. So I have concluded my read for CaribAthon, and I wanted to talk to you about it. This is Kingston by Starlight by Christopher John Farley. And Christopher John Farley was born in Jamaica, and he was raised in New York. And he visits Jamaica often. He still has family there, and he says in the beginning, this book is for Jamaica, and I really enjoyed this. I think this is a great read. So we follow Anne Bonny, who is born in Ireland, and she, from the very beginning, is this very strong-spirited girl, and she has adventure in her bones and in her blood, and she wants to pursue that. And there's many different circumstances that lead her forward in life, but she ends up becoming a pirate and working on a pirate ship and pursuing adventure that way. And so this book is definitely an adventure story. 3/4 of the story takes place on the sea during Anne's adventures as a pirate. We learn about other members on the ship, and she conceals her identity and dresses as a man. And for a cisgendered man, who, as far as I can tell, is also heterosexual, I was very impressed with Farley's ability to write the experience of not just a girl who has more of a heart of an adventurer, and so has to kind of deny her gender, her sex because of that, because this is the 18th century. But he also goes into, topics of, what defines a person, what is a person their outer appearance, or is there a person something on the inside? We're also talking about race in many different aspects here, because Anne's race is put into question at times, and that's a really interesting part of the story. And there's a lot of fluidity in terms of sexuality as well, which I think Farley handled in an interesting manner, because he really did try to embody the spirit of the characters based on being raised religiously in the 18th century. So he's talking about the issues, he's talking about the experience of LGBTQ plus in a sense of the 18th century, not as we would see it today. And I thought he handled it with a lot of nuance and a lot of depth. And so you can see the layers of someone's experience, and how ultimately that would be perceived based in a highly religious Christianized environment, and where those rules apply more and where they apply less. I think there's definitely some parts in here that you have to suspend belief a little bit, because he was trying to make an interesting, exciting story. So whether or not Anne was granted as much lenience in reality as she was in this book is hard to say. But he did base this on 3 real characters, one of which was Anne Bonny. And so you really, he did a lot of extensive research. He represented this time as best he could, but he also was like listening for the voice of this woman and trying to portray her in the way that he saw fit. And I really enjoy this type of fiction. I think, you can definitely read a nonfiction book about this person and learn about the facts of her life as we know them. But to embody her character and to try to connect with her emotionally, it's really wonderful to have a fictionalized account. yeah, I really enjoyed this. And I think that if you're looking for something that is an adventure, and that definitely has themes of the time. I mean, they do talk about slave ships, they talk about slavery. He doesn't go into big ethical questions, though. This isn't a book examining, the major issues of the slave trade or racism or anything like that. This book is an adventure story at its heart, but I would say it is an adventure story that has a lot of interesting layers, and so you're in the adventure and you're enjoying it, but you're also able to pick up on a lot of things that I don't think your typical beach read has. And I would actually categorize this as a beach read. I think you could really enjoy jumping into this adventure and reading this over the course of a vacation and feeling a little bit of Jamaican vibes as you're reading it. I mean, as I said, it is mostly on the sea, so Jamaica is only the last third of the book. But you get some beautiful descriptions and you definitely get a sense of the place. And the other thing I loved about this as a pirate story is that you're not in some fantastical idea of what pirates are. I think he wrote this very realistically. He wrote about hunger. He wrote about how most pirates were just stealing to subsist. They weren't becoming these big famous rich people by capturing these ships and stealing the cargo. Oftentimes they were stealing the food because they needed to survive. So they were kind of existing outside of society. They were outsiders, and they were trying, and a lot of them were people who were already outsiders in some level. So they were a band of outsiders, very multicultural, multi-layered, stories of loss, stories of capture, stories of slavery, stories of kind of the sea dog's way, they call it. So if you were a ship that was captured, the captains of the other ship would often give you a choice. You could either join the crew and survive and become a member of the ship, or you could perish, or you could stay on the ship that has been removed, all the good things have been removed from it, and wait for someone to rescue you. So you had kind of these options that weren't really options, but that meant that there was a lot of different types of people on the crew. On their ship, the William that they were on for most of the time, they had Africans, they had a Jewish man, they had Native Americans. So there was a lot of different experiences that were talked about in here. And so I would recommend this. I think it's a really great read. I really enjoyed it. And a very successful CaribAthon for me. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video.